So we were really fortunate to have the opportunity to develop a partnership with a group of dynamic and inspirational women working in conservation and science in this community who had the interest in passing on their knowledge and the stories about their journeys to the next generation of young women. So we chose Kenna Point to conduct Navigating My Course because it provided an incredible opportunity to facilitate several different hands-on activities led by our mentors. Our first activity was led by Kim Welsh, who is someone who spends her professional life on the coastline and in the mountains of Hawaii, actively engaged in conservation.
What do you notice about the plant, like as far as the color or the types of leaves? What sorts of things do you notice?
I really think that Kim was able to convey the way that with a few basic skills, anyone is able to become part of a coastal restoration project. But more importantly, for some of these young women, it may actually translate into a future career.
Flowers attracting birds as well. Probably a daytime pollinator. If it's a nighttime pollinator, the flowers are not brightly colored. What color do you think they are? Yeah, white. The color's not going to help them, but usually they're very fragrant. So that fragrance will help attract pollinators to help them find the plant.
I think the restoration efforts that we did with the planting are significant because in a way it sort of shows the young women and me that small steps can make an impact, you know, going out all the way to Kaena and seeing what a huge difference many people's efforts made over quite a bit of time is inspiring. You can't do it all at once, but I think doing a little bit, like the efforts that we did to plant, can add up over time and can really make a difference. So I think it's a way to inspire people that, you know, you can only do your part, but your part does add up to be a lot more.
So I planted the endangered ojai, and what we had to do was we had to look where the sand was getting enough sunlight, because it could handle a lot of sunlight, and we had to look to make sure there wasn't any roots like buried in the ground, and to make sure that the fertilizer in the soil was distributed evenly.
When we plant, it's like we're giving back to the earth because we've been taking so much and we take it for so granted, and so it was really nice to actually be able to give back to it and put in our mana, our positive energy with that plant into the earth.
The symbolism of planting an idea and hoping that it grows and taking care, you know, it takes more than a desire. It takes tending to an idea to make something happen.
You can lecture and talk about, you know, how important native plants are and that the stresses that they experience. But when you go out into the field and you see native plants that are being uprooted or destroyed or, you know, washed away, and then you see others that have really done well, and you see the difference in what the landscape looks like, that really takes it home. You can't ignore it, and you get a feeling for it, and you start to care about, you know, this doesn't have to be this way, and now I know enough about it and I care enough about it to do something.
On the Facebook page, a couple of the girls let us know that they had been back out to Camp Erdman and were able to go check on the plants that we had planted. And they were really excited to find out that some of them were doing really well. I think their words were, the plants were thriving. And they sounded genuinely excited about it. And I thought that was a really nice thing to hear, that they had taken so much pride in what they had done and taken it upon themselves to go check this spot out again and see how their efforts were doing.
After the restoration activity, we introduced the young women to Lindsay Young, who has a seabird ornithologist who's been actively involved in working with the albatross colony at Kaena Point. And Lindsay introduced the young women to what's called a bolus.
So a bolus is kind of similar to an owl pellet. Albatross cough up the hard bits of their diet, which naturally would be squid beaks and little bits of, you know, wood or things that are floating on the surface, but they unfortunately grab a lot of plastic now, and that's also regurgitated up. So a lot of these boluses have a high proportion of plastic and garbage in them, which was what a lot of the girls were seeing when they dissected them.
Yeah, I think we've all heard about boluses containing plastic, but you just don't understand until the bolus that you're working on is like 80% plastic and 20% squid beaks.
In our bolus we found styrofoam, string, plastic, bottle caps.
Yeah, it's really depressing, but it's really eye-opening, I think, at the same time.
I think they were pretty shocked by the amount of junk that was inside the stomachs of those birds. And I think that's actually a really good reality check for a lot of people, that plastic water bottle that you just throw in the recycling that may blow out of the can and blow into the water still has an impact, even if we don't think about it, that all of our waste goes into the ocean and can really impact a lot of the things that we would like to protect. So it's not just going out there and doing stuff, it's your day-to-day life too.
So in the classroom, Lindsay had like a dummy albatross, and it was all stretched out as if, you know, kind of in the orientation where you would hold it in the wild.
Yeah, I brought in these life-size albatross models that were actually decoys on a social attraction project because it's something that the girls could hold that felt about the same size, and that way they got the feel for how to hold the bird correctly and not injure themselves or the animal. Getting comfortable with holding something that size and figuring out the positioning before you have something that's moving around in your hand that could potentially bite you is pretty important.
The experience of banding the albatross was so awesome. There's this gorgeous bird that is just pristine and beautiful and not like any city bird you ever see.
And what we had to do was we had to replace one of the IDs on its leg. And so what Lindsay did was she went over to an albatross nest and she tried to catch some albatross, but the first two flew away. And then she was able to catch the final one that was like the last one there. And so we were like all cheering, "You can do it, Lindsay!" And she did it.
Getting to see a bird like that up close was first of all just really impressive and kind of awe-inspiring.
It was like the most exciting thing of all time. I went home and I was like, I got to help tag an albatross, even though I didn't do anything except watch.
Lindsay grabbed the bird. I was like, oh my God. I was just like, wow, just like intrigued by everything around and how we were reacting and how the birds was reacting. It was awesome.
So Lindsay brought over the bird, and then Sonia actually held the albatross. And we were kind of all like on our phones trying to get like videos of her.
It was huge. It was like that, and we have to hold it by the neck so that it doesn't peck around.
And the girl holding the bird is just ear to ear grin. She's just so ecstatic.
Yeah, I mean, she was clearly in the classroom the one that was the most interested anyway, and it just, you know, we were a little bit in the moment there, but she happened to be the first one that was available to even take the bird when we brought it over.
Just the look of awe on Sonia's face was pretty exciting for me to watch.
So Lindsay quickly banded the albatross, and the girls had this unique opportunity to observe this up close.
You know, and the students just loving it. She's just grinning ear to ear, and we all got to experience this with her.
For the girls, as well as for myself, you know, seeing that Lindsay's profession is getting to work that closely with albatross. I mean, there's a lot of lead-up work for that, and she has to know a lot of science and ecology and conservation and all those sorts of things, but that's what she gets to do for her job. And that it was such a fun experience and such an inspiring experience, and to see that someone like Lindsay gets to do that for her job is pretty impressive and inspiring that you could do that too as a student.
They now have this refuge on Oahu, like the most densely populated island. There's a piece of it that's for birds, and that definitely wouldn't have happened without the passion of somebody like her.
I think it gives you a lot of confidence. I mean, those are big birds, and if you if you don't handle things correctly, they're going to take more blood out of you than the other way around, we'll put it that way. So I think it's a good confidence builder that you can do that and do it safely and contribute towards a research project.
And I asked Sonia afterwards, I said, so what was the comparison between the bird in the classroom and the one in the wild? And she said, you know, it was a little bit heavier, but it was way cooler to hold a real one, so of course.
The more you know about these animals, the better that we can serve them, you know? And so, yeah, we are hugging an albatross at this point, but hopefully we can do it once and not have to bug them again anymore, but still be able to get that information that we need to be able to help them.
We wanted the girls to have the opportunity to really map out and think hard about the steps that it would take to reach these goals that they had, whether it was college or whether it was a specific professional career. But we were able to use the sail plan to help them visualize what it would take to get to those goals.
It was like a metaphorical kind of sail plan. So our journey, we go from island to island, and each island is a different step in our lives that we take to getting closer to our goal.
it's like you're putting your essential goal as like the biggest goal, and then you're taking little goals here and there to go up to that essential goal and like what you want to do in your life.
We've all struggled to get wherever we are in life and to be able to share the success part of it. Like, go for these things, you know, this is what's available, you know, as someone looking back at what paths moved me forward, it's really good, it's really nice for me to be able to share. If you're interested in resource management, to go through that with somebody who's in the field and who can show you what the channels are in conservation or in resource management in Hawaii is just totally invaluable. And I was learning stuff too from listening to some of the other ladies talk about what their paths that they took.
I don't think when I was an undergrad that I had anybody encourage me to do something like a sail plan. And I think had I been encouraged to do that, it would have been inspiring to think about where I could go, and also kind of sobering to think about what it would take to get there. I was really impressed with the process of the girls making the sail plan and what the result was. I was impressed with how much they already knew about what it was going to take to get to their goal. And maybe they were impressed as well that they knew what it was going to take. But sometimes I think it takes putting that stuff on paper to realize what you already know and realize, hey, I can do this.
My approximate date for when I wanted to get finished, which is the end of the month, I basically just wanted to research more about the killer whales and SeaWorld itself, like people that have the position that I want, if there's possible internships or jobs in the future for me.
In some ways, I think that maybe that was an empowering experience to write it down and find that, okay, I do have a step-by-step process here that I could do.
Stoked on the girls and how very thoughtful they were into what they wrote down, and just where they were headed, and I was just like totally blown away with their sail plans.
I think my favorite part of the workshop was getting to learn a little bit more about how star navigation works and how a natural phenomenon can be used for something totally different than what modern science is using it for.
I just wanted to start with just giving them an idea of the basic movement of the sky. And I wanted to kind of give people an idea of how it is that you can travel without instruments. How do you know where you are? How do you keep yourself positioned the way that you need to be going? So when I'm sailing to Tahiti, the sun should rise on my port beam. It shouldn't rise over here. It shouldn't rise over there, because now I'm not going south. I need to go south. So it should rise right there. And when I'm steering and I am the canoe, I should steer and I should hold the sun right there.
I've always been curious of how the Hawaiians and all these people who knew their stars knew exactly where it was and how they could read exactly where they are by those stars.
I think it's definitely something very important to keep in touch with, because nowadays we're so reliant on technology and we get so carried away with the modern day things we have. And I think it's really good to be able to step back, and if worse comes to worse and you don't have any technology around you, you'll understand what's going on around you, and you always need to be really perceptive with the environment around you.
She's really down to earth, and she knows her stars and sails, and she said she'll be my mentor, so I'm like, cool.
I think she really connected with a lot of the girls at our program, and she seemed like she was able to really make connections between like a student and like someone who went really far in their life, and she helped it make it more like we can actually do this.
For someone to give their mana'o of things that I didn't know, it made me feel like I was more connected with the skies than I was before.
To me, it might be on a canoe or it might just be in life, because some things are always constant, and you just need to be aware of them, you need to look for them, you need to feel them, and then move whichever way you need to move.
And then you get the campfire and you get to talk about the day and what you thought about this and ask questions and and really, kind of more on a personal level, get to know people and, how did you get your job and what's your favorite subject in school and why do you like that?
In order to really connect with someone, I think you need some unstructured time. You need the time to get to know each other.
We made s'mores. That was delicious. One of the guys brought down his guitar, and so we had a little jam sesh. So we had actually a really good time. We were all mingling and just getting to know one another and enjoying each other's company.
So it felt like we were all strangers when we came in. And then when we went out like best friends.
And it was just fun to get to know the girls as they are. Katie playing the music and learning that she has a beautiful voice and she is so talented on the guitar. In order to really support someone, you need to know who they are. And if the goal of navigating my course is to enable these young women to succeed in their path, we need to know who they are.
I would love to see where these students are at in 5 or 10 years and see what kind of impact this has had on their life. And I think that the take-home message for them is that there are lots of opportunities out there.
Navigating my course helped me establish that the job that I need to take is going to be one that's going to be a blessing to go to work every day.
I just learned so much from each one of them, and especially because I feel like each of us is still deciding where we want to go in our careers and what is really that passion and that drives us. It's just so neat to hear from the people who are really established and really have learned it and are still learning it and love it.